How to touch her during a hug so she falls in love immediately. Most men think a hug is just a hug, a polite gesture, a friendly hello. They have no idea that within that brief moment of contact lies a hidden lever for connection. When executed with specific unconscious triggers, it becomes a nonverbal conversation that builds traction faster than words ever could. The mistake most men make is believing touch is just touch. In reality, touch is emotional communication without language. A woman's nervous system is constantly interpreting pressure, timing, energy, confidence, hesitation, and emotional intention. Before she fully processes your words, her body has already formed an impression about how safe, grounded, present, and emotionally centered you are. And the shocking part is this: most attraction is built in these tiny, invisible moments nobody talks about. If you've ever walked away from an interaction wondering why she suddenly became warmer, softer, more open, or why another interaction felt cold even though you said all the right things, this video is going to change how you see human connection forever. And I want you to be honest in the comments. Have you ever hugged someone and instantly felt chemistry? Or instantly felt distance? Because that reaction is never random. Human beings are wired to read emotional truth through touch long before logic catches up. And once you understand what creates emotional safety and emotional tension at the same time, your entire presence changes. Sarah, host of What She Thinks YouTube channel. What makes this topic so fascinating is that women rarely explain these experiences directly, while her nervous system remembers every subtle detail. The steadiness of his hands, the calmness in his body language, the feeling of emotional certainty in his embrace. These moments bypass intellectual filtering and go straight into emotional memory. Not because they're trying to hide something, but because so much attraction happens subconsciously. A woman may walk away saying, "I don't know what it was about him." And let's clear up something important right away. This is not about manipulation. It's not about using tricks to manufacture fake intimacy. Women can feel inauthenticity faster than men realize. This is about understanding emotional communication at a deeper level. Because when touch comes from grounded confidence, emotional intelligence, and genuine affection, it creates a completely different experience than touch driven by neediness, insecurity, or performance. Think about the last truly memorable hug you received. Not the polite kind, not the rushed social version, the one that made you feel seen. Maybe it happened during a difficult period in your life. Maybe it came from someone you deeply trusted. Maybe for a few seconds the noise in your mind disappeared and your body relaxed completely. That feeling wasn't accidental. It was nervous system regulation happening in real time. Researchers studying human bonding have repeatedly found that safe physical touch lowers cortisol, reduces stress responses, and increases emotional openness. But what's rarely discussed is that not all touch produces the same emotional effect. Some touch creates tension, some creates discomfort, some creates neutrality, and some creates emotional imprinting, the kind of interaction that lingers in someone's mind long after the moment ends. That's why the details matter. Most men focus entirely on words because words feel controllable. But women are often evaluating the emotional congruence beneath the words. Does his energy feel calm or chaotic? Is he present or mentally scattered? Is he touching me with confidence or uncertainty? Does his body language create emotional pressure or emotional safety? A man who understands this immediately separates himself from the crowd. And ironically, the most attractive thing is usually not intensity. It's emotional steadiness. That's what creates magnetism. The first secret is what I call the anchoring palm. Where your hand rests during a hug communicates far more than most men realize. The average hug tends to be awkward, rushed, disconnected, or overly cautious. One hand taps the shoulder, the body leans away, the contact feels emotionally incomplete. It signals uncertainty. But when your palm rests calmly and confidently on the lower back, just above the waistline, something psychologically different happens. Not aggressive, not possessive, grounded. This area subconsciously communicates support and containment. It creates a subtle feeling of stability, and stability is deeply attractive to the feminine nervous system because emotionally healthy women are constantly scanning for emotional safety beneath masculine behavior. Now notice something important. Women are not attracted to force. They are attracted to certainty. There's a huge difference. Force creates resistance. Certainty creates relaxation. And your hand placement reveals which one you embody. I once spoke with a woman during a relationship workshop who described meeting a man at a wedding reception. She barely remembered the conversation afterward, but she vividly remembered the hug goodbye. She said, "It felt like he was completely there, calm, present, like I could exhale." That sentence is everything. Like I could exhale. Attraction is often less about creating excitement and more about removing emotional tension. A grounded embrace tells her your nervous system is regulated, and regulated people naturally regulate others around them. This is why some people instantly make you feel calmer within seconds of being near them. Their body language communicates emotional safety before they even speak. Now here's where most men sabotage themselves. They become hyper-focused on technique. The moment you overthink every movement, your body becomes robotic. Women can feel that instantly. The goal is not memorizing choreography. The goal is embodying emotional presence. Because the true power of touch comes from congruence. If your body language says confidence, but your energy says anxiety, she feels the anxiety. If your touch says affection, but your behavior says hidden agenda, she feels the hidden agenda. Humans are incredibly sensitive to emotional inconsistency. So before you ever improve physical connection, improve emotional grounding. Here's a practical exercise. The next time you hug someone you genuinely care about, friend, family member, romantic interest, focus entirely on slowing your nervous system down first. Relax your shoulders, take one calm breath, become mentally present instead of performing socially. Then, hug slowly instead of rushing through the moment. You'll immediately notice a difference, because presence itself is magnetic. Now let's talk about something women almost never verbalize openly. Many women are touch-deprived emotionally, not physically. There's a difference. They may experience casual touch all the time, crowded spaces, greetings, social interactions, but very little touch that feels emotionally attuned. Very little touch that feels safe, intentional, warm, and psychologically connected. That's why emotionally intelligent physical affection stands out so powerfully. One meaningful hug can create more emotional resonance than hours of surface-level conversation. And this leads directly into the second secret, unwavering containment. This is where confidence becomes physical. Most men hug with hesitation because they're afraid of seeming too much. So the embrace becomes weak, disconnected, and uncertain. But emotionally, uncertainty creates distance. A strong embrace doesn't mean squeezing tightly. It means your body communicates grounded stability instead of nervousness. Think of it this way. A woman should never feel like you're nervously asking permission to exist inside the moment. She should feel like your emotional presence is calm enough to hold the interaction without anxiety. That emotional steadiness is incredibly rare today, especially in a world where so many interactions are fragmented by distraction, insecurity, and emotional guardedness. Have you ever noticed how certain people hug you while mentally already pulling away? Their body is there, but their attention isn't. The interaction feels empty. Now compare that to someone fully present. You feel the difference instantly. And this principle extends far beyond attraction. People remember how you make their nervous system feel, not just romantically, emotionally. This is why some individuals become unforgettable even when they aren't traditionally the most attractive person in the room. Their presence creates emotional impact. There's actually fascinating neuroscience behind this. The human nervous system constantly mirrors emotional states through a process called co-regulation. Calm energy influences calmness, anxiety influences anxiety, confidence influences relaxation. During physical contact, this effect becomes even stronger because the brain interprets touch as emotionally significant information. So when your embrace feels steady instead of hesitant, her nervous system unconsciously relaxes, and relaxation creates openness. This is also why emotionally secure men often appear more attractive over time than men who rely purely on surface charm. Charm can capture attention temporarily, but emotional safety creates attachment. And women deeply feel the difference between a man trying to impress them and a man comfortable within himself. One creates performance energy, the other creates trust. Now here's another important layer nobody talks about enough. The quality of your emotional state before the hug matters more than the hug itself. If you approach interactions desperate for validation, touch becomes emotionally heavy. She feels expectation inside the interaction. But when your energy is genuinely warm, grounded, and unattached to outcome, physical connection feels natural instead of transactional. That emotional freedom is incredibly attractive because it allows her to relax instead of subconsciously managing your emotional needs. This is why self-confidence cannot be faked for long. Eventually, your nervous system reveals the truth, and women are exceptionally intuitive at detecting emotional incongruence. A lot of men mistakenly believe attraction is built through dominance alone. But healthy feminine attraction is usually built through the combination of strength and emotional safety simultaneously. Strength without warmth feels intimidating. Warmth without strength feels unstable. But grounded masculinity contains both. Calm confidence, steady presence, emotional control. Protective energy without aggression. That combination creates psychological attraction at a very deep level, and this becomes even more powerful during silence. Because silence amplifies emotional truth. During conversation, people can hide behind words, but during a hug, the nervous system becomes louder than language. That's why emotionally disconnected hugs feel instantly noticeable. There's nowhere for emotional incongruence to hide. Which brings us to one of the biggest mistakes men make after physical connection. They rush away emotionally. The hug ends, and immediately they break eye contact, crack nervous jokes, look at their phone, or disconnect from the moment because vulnerability makes them uncomfortable. But emotional impact lives inside transitions. The moments after connection matter just as much as the connection itself. Now here's where things become deeply psychological. Most people think attraction is created in the obvious moments. Compliments, flirting, eye contact, physical beauty. But often, the moments that stay in someone's memory are the ones that were emotionally unfinished. The interactions that created a feeling instead of simply delivering information. And that's exactly why timing changes everything. The third secret is what I call the alchemical duration. This is the point where a hug stops being social and starts becoming emotional. Most men break physical contact far too quickly. 2 seconds, maybe 3. The hug becomes automatic, almost procedural. It communicates politeness, but not emotional depth. But something fascinating begins to happen when an embrace lasts slightly longer than expected. Not awkwardly long, not forced, but calmly sustained. Around the 5 to 7 second range, the nervous system begins shifting states. Breathing slows. Mental resistance softens. Emotional awareness increases. And this is where the experience becomes memorable. Research on human bonding has shown that sustained, safe physical touch can stimulate oxytocin release, the hormone associated with trust, emotional bonding, and attachment. But beyond biology, there's something psychologically profound happening here. Time communicates certainty. A rushed hug says, "I'm uncomfortable." A calm hug says, "I'm emotionally grounded enough to stay present." That difference is enormous. One woman once described meeting her now husband at a friend's birthday dinner years ago. She said the moment she realized he was different wasn't during conversation. It happened during a goodbye hug at the end of the night. She noticed he wasn't trying to impress her. He wasn't rushing. He wasn't tense. For a few seconds, she felt emotionally safe in a way she hadn't felt around men before. And her exact words were, "It felt peaceful." That word matters more than most men realize. Peacefulness is incredibly seductive to a nervous system exhausted by chaos, especially today. Modern dating often feels emotionally overstimulating. Mixed signals, performative confidence, emotional games, constant uncertainty. So when someone feels emotionally calm and authentic, it creates immediate contrast. And contrast creates attraction. Now let's talk about the mistake men make once they learn this information. They try to artificially hold hugs longer to trigger chemistry. And the moment it becomes strategic instead of natural, the emotional effect disappears. Women can feel intention underneath behavior. If your touch says, "I'm trying to make something happen," she instinctively becomes guarded. But if your touch says, "I'm genuinely comfortable being emotionally present with you," her nervous system relaxes. This is why authenticity is everything. A truly magnetic man is not obsessing over techniques while hugging someone. He's emotionally present enough to create safety, warmth, and grounded energy naturally. That's what women respond to most deeply. presence, not performance. And this leads into a powerful insight most people overlook completely. The nervous system remembers emotional contrast more than consistency. What does that mean? It means if a woman spends most of her day stressed, emotionally guarded, overstimulated, or anxious, then one interaction that makes her feel calm, feminine, emotionally relaxed, and safe can become disproportionately memorable. Not because you manipulated her, because emotional relief creates imprinting. This is why some people stay on your mind for days after seemingly simple interactions. Your body remembers how it felt around them. Now imagine this scenario. A woman has spent years around emotionally inconsistent men. Men who are reactive, needy, distracted, emotionally unavailable, or trying too hard. Then she encounters a man whose body language communicates calm certainty. His touch feels warm but respectful. His energy feels grounded instead of performative. Immediately, her nervous system notices the difference, and often she won't consciously understand why she feels drawn toward him. She'll simply say, "There's something about him." That something is emotional congruence. Now here's an exercise I want every man watching this video to practice. The next time you hug someone you genuinely care about, don't focus on impressing them. Focus on making them feel emotionally safe. That shift alone changes everything. Slow down, become present, relax your body, breathe naturally, stop mentally performing, and notice how differently people respond to you. Because the truth is, emotionally grounded touch is becoming rare. Most people today are physically present, but emotionally absent, and women feel that absence immediately. Now let's move into the fourth secret, the lingering signature. This is the part almost nobody understands. The ending of an interaction psychologically determines how the entire interaction gets remembered. There's actually a psychological principle related to this called the peak end rule. Studies show people tend to remember emotional experiences largely based on two things, the emotional peak and the ending, which means the final few seconds of physical connection carry enormous emotional weight. Most men end hugs abruptly. They disconnect too quickly. Their energy suddenly changes. The emotional continuity breaks. But emotionally intelligent touch tapers instead of snaps. As you slowly pull away, there's softness in the transition. A calm hand lingering briefly along her arm. A warm smile maintained for one extra second. Continued eye contact. Emotional continuity instead of emotional withdrawal. This creates what psychologists sometimes refer to as a sensory echo, a lingering emotional impression. And often, that's the exact moment attraction deepens, because anticipation lives inside incomplete emotional experiences. The mind replays what feels emotionally unresolved. That's why some interactions stay with you long after they end. Now, very important distinction here. A lingering touch should never feel invasive. This is where emotional intelligence matters. The difference between magnetic and uncomfortable is awareness. A respectful, emotionally attuned gesture feels warm. An entitled gesture feels violating. Women instantly know the difference, and men who ignore this reality destroy attraction without realizing it. Real confidence always respects emotional boundaries. In fact, one of the most attractive qualities in a man is his ability to create emotional safety while still maintaining masculine presence. That balance is rare, and when women encounter it, they remember it. I remember hearing a woman describe a date she had years earlier with a man she never even officially dated. What she remembered most wasn't his appearance. It wasn't his career. It wasn't even the conversation. It was how emotionally calm she felt around him. She said, "He made me feel feminine without trying to control me." That statement perfectly captures healthy masculine energy. Protective without pressure, confident without arrogance, warm without weakness. And all of that can be communicated through tiny moments of touch and presence. Now let's go even deeper. Why does emotionally intelligent touch affect attraction so strongly? Because touch bypasses intellectual defenses. Words can be analyzed. Touch gets felt. That's why emotionally congruent physical affection often creates faster emotional closeness than conversation alone. But again, and this is critical, only when trust and mutual comfort exist. Healthy attraction always includes emotional consent. And emotionally intelligent men pay attention to feedback constantly. Does she lean in or pull away? Does her body relax or tense? Does she reciprocate warmth or become distant? These signals matter. And ironically, the men who respect these signals most carefully are usually the men women trust most deeply. Because respect creates safety, safety creates openness, and openness creates emotional intimacy. Now let's talk about the hidden emotional truth underneath all of this. Many women are not secretly craving aggressive seduction. They're craving emotional steadiness. A nervous system that feels safe enough to soften around someone. That's what creates feminine receptivity. And this is why emotionally mature masculinity is becoming more attractive than ever. Because emotional chaos is exhausting. A grounded man stands out immediately. Not because he's louder, not because he dominates every room, but because his presence feels emotionally secure. And here's the irony. The more secure you become internally, the less you need techniques externally, because your nervous system itself becomes attractive. People can feel when you're comfortable in your own skin. They can feel when your kindness is genuine, when your calmness is real, when your confidence isn't dependent on approval. That authenticity changes every interaction you have, including something as simple as a hug. So if you take anything from this video, let it be this. Attraction is not built through force. It's built through emotional experience. The way you make someone feel in your presence matters more than perfectly crafted words ever will. A truly unforgettable embrace communicates, I'm present, I'm grounded, you're safe here, I'm not rushing this moment. And in a world full of emotional disconnection, that kind of presence becomes magnetic. Before we close, I want you to think about something honestly. How often are you truly present with people? Not distracted, not performing, not trying to impress, not anxiously seeking validation, just genuinely present. Because that ability alone transforms relationships, not only romantic ones, all relationships. And maybe that's the deeper lesson hidden inside this conversation. People don't fall deeply for perfection. They fall for emotional safety, emotional honesty, emotional consistency. That's what creates trust. That's what creates connection. And ultimately, that's what creates lasting attraction. If this video shifted the way you think about human connection, let me know in the comments what part hit you the hardest. I read far more comments than you think, and honestly, some of the most powerful conversations happen down there between people sharing real experiences. And if you want more psychology-based insights into attraction, emotional intelligence, feminine behavior, and the unspoken dynamics that quietly shape relationships, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss future videos. Because the smallest invisible details often create the deepest emotional impact.